Good evening. We do have a member of the Ministerial Alliance with us this evening.
Heavenly Father, thank you for today. Thank you for the opportunity we have to come together and help you and guide this community. Father, I pray for wisdom. Pray that you guide our hands, guide our hearts, guide our minds, and just make wise decisions. Father, we love you.
Amen. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Microphone. A buzzing sound? Or am I the only one that hears the buzzing sound?
No, you're not.
Okay. I call the February 5th, 2024 Board of Aldermen meeting to order. City Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Rachel Kilmer,
Here.
Jim Shroud,
Here.
Tracy Newcomer,
Here.
Jeremy Taylor,
Here.
Pam Pope,
Here.
Kelly Netto,
Here.
and Mayor Dana Webb.
Here, thank you. The next item on the agenda is new business deletions or continuances. We do not have any of those, so we will move on to public comments. City Clerk, do we have any public comments?
There are none.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is a consent agenda. These items are considered on the consent agenda so that members of the Board of Aldermen, by unanimous consent, can designate routine items to be approved by one motion. Tonight, we have approval of the January 16th, 2024 Board of Aldermen meeting minutes and expenditures through January 31st, 2024.
I make a motion, we approve the consent agenda. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. The next item on the agenda is unfinished business. We do not have any of that this evening, so we will move on to new business. The first item on new business is discussion, consideration, and possible action for Bill Number 24-02 regarding an ordinance amending Title III Traffic Code Schedule 3 parking restrictions of the Municipal Code of the City of Oak Grove, Missouri, designating locations on Broadway as accessible parking for physically disabled persons. Matt? Oh, we're going to Corey.
Yeah, Corey's
I
got
had the
this
wrong
one.
person. Corey?
Thank you, Mayor.
Yes.
Yes, so we've identified 3 parking stalls along Broadway to, with approval, make handicap parking. 2 of them on the east side and 1 of them on the west side. The city has 17 parking spots that have already been painted along the east side of Broadway, and 18 are on the west side of Broadway for a total of 35 parking stalls. City staff's looked at the area for adding handicap parking and has determined that adding 2 on the east side and 1 on the west side would suffice the normal daily use. Additional handicap parking is also available in the public parking lots just west of Broadway along 13th Street. These parking stalls were selected with the users in mind. Each are close to an existing ramp, driveway approach. Each stall will have the blue and white handicap stencil on the pavement, as well as the proper signage. The signs will, well, 2 of the 3 signs will mount to existing streetlight poles to minimize the clutter and amount of poles along Broadway. 1 of them will have to install a pole on. Some photos are attached of the current markings of what it looks like right now, and those are the 3 locations we have chosen for the handicap parking. And so with that, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Corey. Does the board have any questions for Corey?
You have to have a permission from the State Highway Patrol or State Highway Department?
I'll go ahead, Matt.
No, we do not. Part of the agreement when we took over the maintenance of the parking lots was that we'd be able to pass ordinances on parking restrictions or accessibility.
So this is an addition, so we had no, on any city-owned, we had no handicap parking, like in the public lot before?
Yeah, so we have on the, lot, the downtown parking lot, we have it, that's city-owned property. This would be the only public right-of-way that would be
Oh,
designated.
that's why, okay.
How many slots are on that public?
35?
No, I mean, for,
Oh, the parking lot?
yeah, for handicap accessible. I've seen them. They're right up front, right?
I'm actually not sure how many.
I'm just curious. It's okay.
But, I can think of two for sure.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Does the board have any other questions for Corey?
I move for first and second reading by title only of Bill number 24-02.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second for the first and second reading of proposed Bill 24-02 to ordinance by title only. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. City Clerk, would you please read the full title of the bill 2 times?
An ordinance amending Title III Traffic Code, Schedule 3 Parking Restrictions of the Municipal Code of the City of Oak Grove, Missouri, designating locations on Broadway as accessible parking for physically disabled persons. An ordinance amending Title III Traffic Code, Schedule 3 Parking Restrictions of the Municipal Code of the City of Oak Grove, Missouri, designating locations on Broadway as accessible parking for physically disabled persons.
I move for adoption of Bill number 24-02.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the adoption of Bill number 24-02 to ordinance. Any discussion? If not, City Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Rachel Kilmer,
Yes.
Jim Shrout,
Yes.
Tracy Newcomer,
Yes.
Jeremy Taylor,
Yes.
Pam Pope,
Yes.
Kelly Neto.
Yes.
The motion is approved, and Bill number 24-02 becomes ordinance 2101. The next item on the agenda is discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding approval of a 2024 Missouri Highway Safety Grant submission for impaired drivers.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yes.
Tonight, I'm seeking approval to apply for the grant and signatures required in regards to the 2024 DWI DUI grant. This is a extra patrol grant in which the state will provide overtime and fringe to cover any patrols that are specific to DWI enforcement. So these officers are outside of their normal shift, outside of their normal schedule, and their only obligation is to conduct car stops to lessen DWIs or DUIs. We usually put in for this each year. We took a year off to get better numbers in the sense of we are declining, which is a great thing for Oak Grove. Driving while intoxicated, while it is always there, it is not a large problem for Oak Grove to where we're seeing a lot of accidents that are related to that. If you look at the numbers, if we go back to 2017 through 2019, we had 51 arrests in those 2 years, to where in 21 to 23, we only had 24. So it's been cut in half drastically. But the money that we would receive from the state would allow for those extra patrols, as well as sending one officer to training at the conference to always make sure that we're up to date on the newest court cases, techniques, in training, and then also an additional Type 2 trainer to make sure that our machines within the department that we use for blood alcohol readings are up to date as well. So with that, I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions from the board?
So how, how many times per year would this happen?
So the grant goes for a year, and basically it's just where we expend the money. So we would have $2,000 that would cover the overtime hours. So if you take the mean of overtime, you're talking $40 an hour. They have to work a minimum of 2 hours at any given time, but can work up to as long as they want, as long as it doesn't interfere with their shift. So it's just however long that $2,000 would cover the overtime.
So just like at discretion when you think it would be like high
You bet,
impact
you bet.
times.
Now, we're going to, an officer isn't going to come in and work Tuesday from 11 to 1 during the day for a DWI enforcement. So they're going to be set hours that are surrounding those times when most DUIs would be
I
encountered.
thought he meant AM.
I know, I was like, oh, wow, okay, that's
Wow,
interesting.
Yeah.
really?
But, so like holidays that are, okay.
Holidays,
I see.
evening hours, just when we would expect to encounter those drivers.
Any other questions from the board?
I make a motion to approve for the 2024 Missouri Highway Safety Program grant submission for impaired drivers enforcement.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the approval of the 2024 Missouri Highway Safety Program grant submission for impaired drivers enforcement. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. The next item on the agenda is discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding approval of a 2024 Missouri Highway Safety Program grant for hazardous moving vehicle enforcement. Chief?
Thank you, Mayor. This is the second installment of the Missouri Highway Safety Program, and this being the hazardous moving vehicle enforcement, or ensuring that high-traffic, high-crash areas are enforced more often to reduce those traffic crashes. So while we have reduced the DWI grant, which used to be upwards of the 9,000, we're taking that down to 3,000 now. We have increased the HMV because the number of crashes in the city always stay constant, and it always seems to be in a square corridor. If you take Broadway east on 4th, Salem from 4th to 12th, 12th back to Broadway, and so that kind of square in the city accounts for most of our motor vehicle crashes outside of what occurs on a parking lot, which is our daily occurrence, but we don't enforce parking lots because it's private property unless there are mitigating circumstances to it. So the HMV funds will be used to, again, have the extra patrols in those high crash areas. They will be working on the overtime rate paid by the state, as well as the grant also provides for additional purchase of radars or LiDARs, which are speed detection devices inside the patrol cars, and the training for any officers seeking additional training in crash reconstruction or crash diagramming. So, be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Chief.
So is that just cycling out old equipment, or do you not have enough?
We cycle out the old equipment, yeah. It changes about as fast as your cell phones do.
Really?
So, yeah, we cycle it down, and as we're ready to take some of those old ones and put them in the next gov deals, and then those will go to smaller departments that don't have any equipment.
This is a very abstract question, but is there data or research that shows that having the LiDARs actually reduces accidents? Like, may sound really dumb, but like, does the like act of a driver seeing that reduce the occurrence of accidents, or is it actually the pulling over of the people?
It's actually, it's the action of enforcement that reduces the traffic speeds. But speed is the highest rate of or connection to motor vehicle crashes of any incident. While cell phones, talking on the cell phone may be up there as well, or just the inattention, it's the speed that we have to reduce the crashes. And so to be able to do that in the state of Missouri, we need speed detection devices, because just the officer's ID of a vehicle that seems to be above the speed limit is not enough to take action on.
So that sounds like there's like data then that if like a really fast driver gets pulled over once, it changes their behavior moving forward, which then prevents accidents. Is that the theory?
I'll never base it just on that one driver, but the 10 to 15 cars that go by, they know that we're doing enforcement in the area.
I see.
I could slow down cars too if I had enough vehicles, and I'm not asking for more vehicles. I'm just saying the placement of a vehicle at 4th and Broadway slows traffic down.
Just seeing it.
An officer getting a soda slows traffic down, you know. It's whatever we can show in being proactive and then the reactive of stopping as well.
Okay, thank you. Just curious.
Any other questions from the board? If no further action, I will move on.
I'll make a motion for approval of the 2024 Missouri Highway Safety Program grant submission for hazardous moving vehicle enforcement.
Second.
I have a motion and a second regarding approval of the 2024 Missouri Highway Safety Program grant for hazardous moving vehicle enforcement. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. The next item on the agenda is discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding an agreement with Bartle and West Incorporated for engineering consulting services. Matt? Oh, boy, I've just struck out this time. Corey?
It's really no big deal.
Well, I'll take it, Corey.
Oh.
So this is an engineering, we did an RFQ for engineering services. We had several responses to that. The board previously approved an agreement with Own Engineering, and staff's also requesting that the board approve an agreement with Bartlett and West. Their scope of work and really the fees are similar between the two consulting services, but we felt that Bartlett and West is slightly stronger in water and sewer utilities specifically, and Own seems to be stronger in development engineering services. So we'd like to have both consultants on board so that we could utilize them for certain things where their expertise seems a bit stronger, as well as to operate them as backup if is needed. So if we reach out to one engineering service and they're backed up and can't get something for several months, we'll reach out to the other one to see if it can be done sooner. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions the board may have. In addition, I would like to add too that Bartlett and West has done a lot of utility work in the city of Oak Grove in the past, and so they have sort of a repertoire of knowledge about certain projects that have happened, so they can be brought back up to speed more quickly on some of our new projects that we'd like to have them work on. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Any questions for Matt or Corey?
The price, so are the prices like the same for both, or is it like one thing might be higher for one and one thing might be higher for the other, and it just kind of averages out over the grand scheme of things?
Yeah, so they're fairly close. There are some things that Own's fee schedule is slightly higher on, and some that Bartlett and West are slightly higher on. You know, part of that's going to be the types of employees that they have available for certain projects, whether or not what level of engineering should be brought in. But yeah, they're comparable across the board. To average out. But individually speaking, they might be slightly different within each subcategory.
I see.
But in here, we're only looking at an agreement with Bartlett and West.
Yes, yeah, the Own agreement was already approved by the board prior. So we had been working with both firms on the contract negotiation, and we simply got that back from Own sooner. So we brought it to the board as soon as we had it, because we had some projects that needed to get looked at, particularly on the development side. And on the development side, via our code, we're able to recoup those costs. So when we're reviewing new construction plans from developers, we're able to recoup those costs to review their plans. But yeah, so they're responded to the same RFQ. We simply just had a slightly longer contract negotiation with Bartlett and West, but they've agreed to our form contract, which you have before you tonight.
Thank you, Matt.
Yep.
I make a motion that we approve the agreement between the city and Bartlett and West.
Second?
I have a motion and a second to approve the agreement between the City of Oak Grove and Bartlett and West Incorporated for engineering consulting services. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. The next item on the agenda is information reports. Matt, do you have any?
None tonight. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Chris? Thank you. Mark?
The test of the outdoor warning sirens will be, weather permitting, Wednesday at 11 a.m.
Okay, thank you. Chief? No report, thank you. Thank you. Corey? No report, thank you. Kim? Thank you. Scott? Rachel?
No report.
No report.
Kelly? Jim?
No report.
Jeremy? Pam?
No report.
Oh, no report. Makes me feel like I got to say something, which I do. When we did the budget workshop, wasn't there long-term plans of looking into increasing or just looking at our building permit process and fees? Have we started that yet?
Yes, during the budget workshop, yeah, there was discussion on that, Mayor, and we are working on that.
Okay, thank you.
Couple of things on that. Staff is working to bring our codes up to date. So right now we're on 2012s. Most surrounding cities are on 2018s. So we like to bring those codes up to 2018s, and around the same time as that would bring development fees.
Perfect.
So looking at building permits along that same time, just to bring everything up to where surrounding communities are, both on fees as well as the code itself. Certain fees are probably fine, but the industry has changed on certain things over the years,
Yes, it
and certain
has.
inspections take longer than they used to. And so we want to make sure that we're recouping our cost to perform those inspections.
That'll include taps too, right, for sewer and water?
Yeah, yes, so the
All of
last
the-
time, yeah, so the tap fees were looked at and reviewed maybe about a year and a half ago.
Okay.
They were adjusted, but that is something that should be done every few years, particularly with high inflation, to make sure that the pro rata share for each new tap fee is equal to what other folks have paid into the system. So yeah, that is something else that we can look at, is both the tap fees as well as building permit fees.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for the update. The only other thing I have is, board, before you leave, since you approved both of those grants, you need to stop by, and Chief has to have each board member's signature on those grants, so Kim doesn't have to track you down. I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adjourn. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Oh, does she send that to everybody? Twice.